Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is the paid request, this time for Jack Thompson. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box, pretty much under any of these videos. Now, as Baron Corbretti watches over me, looking out for me through some of the BS of today, Jad Thompson put in a request, very interesting idea and topic, the evolution and decline of the straight-to-video market. So bear with me if this becomes long-winded. Let's first get into my personal feelings on the straight-to-video stuff. Obviously, like a lot of things, there's been a lot of good, a lot of bad. But there's a lot of films that are very underrated that only went straight to video. Whether it be Drive with Mark Dacascos and Kadeem Hardison from 1997, awesome fun movie that only cost like $3 million to make, which is crazy. When you look at how some of these other films are done. This film, Daily Outbreak, love this film to death. Still does not have a Blu-ray. This isn't even an official DVD. A nice guy, a classic rocker, sent this to me long ago and kept it because love the cover. DVD still works. DVD-R. Because there is no official. There's maybe a DVD from overseas, and I did get that, but even I don't know if that was an actual official one or just BS. But I do have that from way back when. But this cover is much better. The Tremors 2 Aftershocks. Wonderful straight-to-video sequel. I think if they got Kevin Bacon, it would have gone to theaters. But to me, a very worthy follow-up. Love Tremors 2. Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. One of the better Batman movies, in my opinion. Black Dynamite with Blood and Bone with Michael Jai White. The list of Scott Adkins. Scott Adkins has a lot of them. Accident Man 1 and 2, the sequel Debt Collectors, Ninja Shadow of a Tear, Avengement, Back to the Day, PM Entertainment, Zero Tolerance with Robert Patrick, I highly recommend if you like action films. Last Man Standing with Jeff Wincott. Not the Bruce Willis movie, although that's good. Riot with Gary Daniels. Jeff Speedman, not only Daily Outbreak, but Land of the Free, where he fights William Shatner. The list goes on and on. Let's go backtrack a bit. Back in the day, because it's about the evolution he wanted, when you got into the 70s and such, it starts over with a lot of things. Porn. And you may laugh about that, but people don't realize back in the day, the home market followed with porn. Porn was the #1 commodity of the home market. So VHS and Betamax, who won? VHS, because you saw more porn on VHS. That went on more and more. I think even Blu-ray. I'm not sure if Blu-ray HD DVD was that, but I know with I think DVD and Laserdisc, like DVD for a variety of reasons, but you saw more porn on DVD. I don't know if there's a lot of porn on Laserdisc. That'd be an interesting question. Hey, was there ever any porn on Laserdisc? Like you're about ready to finish, but then you gotta flip the disc over. Shit. And for other variety of reasons, VHS became more of a thing in the 80s. Now, as we're going straight to video, there's not a lot in the 80s as you think, other than porn. I mean, there's random stuff, like this is about football follies or things of that nature. But actual films, I mean, there'd be films like Blood Cult. There's this one from 1988, which is a fun movie called Tracks, with 2 X's. Which I know Ken told me about that. That's a fun parody of action films where the guy, I think, is trying to start like a cookie business, but then It's not a great movie, but it's a fun like parody of action films. Shut up, stomach. Body Slam with Dirk Benedict from the A-Team. That was supposed to get a theatrical, but Hal Needham had problems with the producers. Then that went straight to video. So you're seeing some of them come in, but it was very much more in the 90s. We saw that more as a common thing. Where you had the birth of studios that were kind of going down the wayside. So like Canon Films, then you had Canon Video. More companies like New Image popping up, and like Daily Outbreak was, without the glare, New Image. You had Dimension Home Video, where you saw more of these direct-to-video horror sequels, like the Hellraiser films, Mimic, like various others, Prophecy film sequels with Christopher Walken. Action, you had PM Entertainment, kind of taking the mantle from Canon Films. You saw much more of that become apparent, where straight-to-video could be an actual marketable thing, where by the time the 90s comes in, VCRs are a little bit cheaper compared to how they were back in the day. VHS tapes are becoming a little bit cheaper. Blockbuster is becoming a bigger thing, because Blockbuster, the mom and pop becoming Blockbuster, and Blockbuster's like, come over here, we'll give you cheaper prices, so that helped take care of a lot of the mom and pop shops, Sally, among other stuff. More selection, more opportunities to find different types of films, or we have like 30 copies of the film you're wanting, so they only have like 3 copies, so you come here, more likely you'll get it. And it seemed like I'm not sure if the prices were cheaper, maybe a little bit cheaper, I can't remember. And even buying movies, I mean, it got to a point like, wow, you did a VHS for 20 bucks? It used to be, you had to pay like 50, 60 bucks for a VHS, but 20 bucks for a VHS? That seemed like such a deal. And so companies saw, wow, we could make a market of this and not worry about theatrical, where we have to share money with the movie theater chains. We have to pay all this money to advertise for this theatrical, get as much TV spots as possible. Now, hey, we'll hopefully get our product advertised on other VHS movies from our company. Or you go to a video store, hopefully here's a poster or something. Disney were getting direct-to-video sequels, The Lion King, and how many fucking Land Before Times are there? 20? Like, this is a shitload. And you saw more in the 2000s, but then it got into streaming. 2002, 2003, streaming was becoming to be a thing where things could be streamed on the internet. And nowadays, the straight-to-market, I mean, you don't really have, quote, just straight to DVD. I guess technically you can. I mean, you go to Walmart, you'll find them. But at the same time, when you go to Walmart, no one buys them, because they will just watch it on Netflix or Amazon or Paramount Plus or so forth. When streaming became more of a thing, the straight to DVD market died out more and more so. And as for, I think when he mentions the decline, like, back to the day, it seemed like we saw more and more of these good movies being done. Of course, that's subject, that's a matter of opinion, subjective. That's subjective. But I agree with Jack Thompson and others, where it does seem like back then, a film like this or Drive with Mark DeCostos cost $3 million and gave you so much bang for your buck. But yet, a lot of these like direct-to-video, the Steven Seagal films that were coming out, they were like $10 million. On the flip side, you have to understand, of that $10 million, Seagal is probably getting half of it. And then, considering how many times he comes on set late and have to shoot around it, that probably ups the problems, and you have to pay extra for other people to stay more. And while people like Jeff Speakman or Gary Daniels or Jeff One Cop back in the day were Cynthia Rothrock. They're not getting paid the $3 to $5 million paychecks that's Van Damme, Seagal were getting for their movies that went straight to video. So to backtrack a bit, when you look at people like Van Damme and Seagal, you look at the budgets behind them. I don't know if this is true, but the best I could find was like Weight of Death was $14 million. The Order was $12 million. Pound of Flesh was $7 million. And someone may ask, well, how the fuck is it that, Pound of Flesh, well, number one, has half the budget of Weight of Death, but you see how cheap that film looks. You think of, like, after many years, there's a bit of inflation coming into play. Van Damme doesn't want to do stuff too much cheaper for a price tag. I also think there's a lot of people that either are incompetent or don't have as much passion. Because, yeah, you look at a film like Deadly Outbreak that cost only $3 million, Drive that only cost $3 million. A lot of those PM Entertainment films, people don't realize, because I was looking it up, a lot of them cost like $350,000, $500,000. It was only until like much later in their life that they got to at most $1 to $2 million for a budget. Because that's what they could afford to maintain a business. You had passion, you had drive, you had that knowing what the customer wants mentality, hard work. And when I say competence, like a lot of these people I'm talking about, they know what they're doing. Like Steve Wayne knows a bit about the martial arts business. Whether the stuff he done with TV work, films he'd done prior to that, like Guyver 2 Dark Hero. This movie was directed by Rick Avery, who worked with stunt work, and Cradar Baxley, who did I Come in Peace for what, $7 million at most? $5 to $7 million? That's a theatrical movie, and that was a lot of bang for your buck. That's a guy that knew how to shoot action, that helped shoot a lot of Predator. So you get these guys who knew stunts, knew action, knew how to make things work, knew what the audience wanted. Like PM Entertainment, they literally had a this mantra where we need someone to shoot, fight, or chase someone every 7 minutes. And you watch the film, that is kind of the thing. Like every 7 to 10 minutes, someone's shooting or fighting or explosion, and that's what you want. That's what people want in these type of movies. When you go watch a direct-to-video action film, you know you're not going to get a high art, but you want good escapism entertainment, and a lot of passion, drive, and stuff was in there. That's not really the case today. You do rare exceptions. Willy's Wonderland, for example, which I have the Blu-ray right there, with Nicolas Cage, that only cost $5 million. And you know what? Despite not caring for the shakiness, that stuff, not big on that, I still really love that movie. And that's actually one of the few films I'd be willing to see a sequel if you get someone like James Woods, or even as old as they are, like Dolph Lundgren, Van Damme. You gotta have at least some tank in to beat the shit out of some animatronics. I'd be open to that, and I'm a guy that's against sequels a lot of times, but unless it's such, then I would be against it, of course. But in comparison, Hocus Pocus 2, that piece of shit cost $40 million. And I see more on the screen with Willy's Wonderland than I do with Hocus Pocus 2. Hocus Pocus by Focus. Like, that cost $40 million? How? People throw their money to fix problems. They don't get the blood, sweat, and tears and work their asses off. Like, you see that people work their asses off in a film like this, in a film like Drive. Even Willy's Wonderland, you see that there's heart and passion and either actors willing to take bare minimum and really putting, like Willy's Wonderland, you see how they made a song for the attraction and different designs of the animatronics, and you see a lot of work put into it. But if I look at back to the day, most of Seagal's direct-to-video work. Like Sniper Special Ops, what the fuck am I going to see in Sniper Special Ops that equal passion? Nothing. And so you go back to like PM Entertainment, they knew what the market was, what people wanted, and that's the bang for your buck. And we need to get people who will work cheap enough, but will give us all they got to be a star, but they're people that would never get a chance theatrical. Cynthia Rothrock would never get a chance in theatrical. Neither would Gary Daniels, neither would Jeff Wincott, neither would any of these guys. Or they had theatrical and then it just didn't pan out, sadly. Like Jesse Pinkman did Land of the Free for them. And I think he did one more. What was it called? Was it I forget what the hell it was called. I think it was the one that stole the car chase from the bus chase from Red Heat. I think that was PM Entertainment. I could be wrong on that. And that's the thing with the decline is that you don't see a lot of people. They say it's about the money, the money, the money. But I look at Broken Fist, which is an underrated kick-ass martial arts movie. They had peanuts to work with that. And it's just, they worked their asses off, the blood, sweat, and tears. No one's willing to do that because they figure, well, we'll have enough to have a product. But in today's age, and I'm not going over the place because it's a subject that just goes over the place for me. Before I do that, the PM Entertainment. Like, sadly, that died out because when you got into the 2000s, you had a lot more of these action stars. Their theatrical careers were dead. Dolph Lundgren, you say, died out a bit sooner, sadly, than others. Jean-Claude Van Damme, he did Universal Soldier: The Return, which I think is a fun movie. That did absolutely nothing. Direct-to-video, The Order, Replicant. Steven Seagal, The Patriot was supposed to be theatrical, but it went direct-to-video, but then Hopeful Comeback with Exit Wounds, which was fun. Half Past Dead, that didn't do well, so now The Foreigner. That was 2003 or so forward. So you get in the early 2000s, and you see people like Dolph Lundgren doing more, Van Damme, Steven Seagal, like bigger action stars that someone like PM Entertainment did not have the money to pay them. Because again, their budgets at most were getting $1 to $2 million. And these guys are going to be asking, what, $3 million a piece or so? They couldn't cast them. They couldn't get them. And the people went, I don't want to buy the PM Entertainment stuff. I want to buy the movie that has Van Damme. I want to buy the movie that has Seagal. Because I could put that name, that face on the cover and sell it. And people will buy it because they've gotten enough of a fan base, like me and others, that would search these films out because we're big fans of their early work. And I'm curious to see what they're up to now. That sold more than the PM Entertainment stuff, so PM Entertainment went away. And some of those other companies went away. Or they got bought out. Or they became a different company. Also, the change in taste in the general public where they were not really into those type of action films anymore. They were more into bigger blockbuster, Lord of the Rings, Spider-Man. That type of movie became more theatrically. And then, like I said, direct-to-video, the stars at that time sold those films, not the other types of products. That's why so many things... How many direct-to-video films have you seen? It stars this guy, and they're in it for 5 minutes. Lance Henriksen in for 5 minutes in this Bigfoot movie or something. And as for things getting cheaper and cheaper, because of the evolution of streaming, before that, companies that wanted stuff to sell and made money said, okay, well, we need to make this as decent as possible to sell it to you to make the money, but you also, we want a bit of quality from you because there's no one else to turn to. There's not as many revenue of sources to turn to for movies. But nowadays with streaming, when there is a gluttony of films, why are they, let's say you put your hard work, sweat, and tears, or you put a little bit more money into this, and someone go, and then because of that, you want a bit more extra. Okay, we put a lot of hard work into this, we put a lot of time into this, and we don't want to just give it to you for free. Give us a little bit extra. The people buying it going, well, no, I could just buy these and sell them because it has a name and they're a lot cheaper because that's a shitty product that only costs 5 cents. That's a SYFY film that costs $10. That's another one that costs 15 bucks. And so I'd pay less and I sell more because either the people will laugh at it or it has a name to sell or any of the sort. And because there's so many Netflix, Amazon, Paramount Plus, iTunes, every now Peacock, like all this stuff now has all this gluttony of not just movies, but your YouTube videos and their own original programs each one has, and TV shows and all sorts of stuff. There's such an amount, a huge amount of stuff that people don't want to pay as much for these movies because they feel, well, those movies are, unless it's like a big home run hit that people don't know, it's going to get lost in the shuffle. Every week, people want quantity. Because all these services want you to pay for them and them alone because, wow, if I pay for you, look at all the shit I get. If I pay for this, look at all the shit I get. So get content out there. And, oh, you don't charge more because you worked so hard or you put more? Nah, I don't get all this content that will cheap out because they just want it out there and they to have something out there better than nothing. Quantity over quality. And even then it'll get lost in the shuffle because there's so many goddamn movies being made. There's more movies being made today than back in the 90s. There's more movies being made today when you look at streaming and the new version of straight to video. And there's so much that you can't keep track of it. If even me and you can't keep track of it, how's the regular Joe Schmo just wanting to click on something, how they don't keep track and find that movie, find that flick? And I think some of these higher-ups know that, and so we'll get this content, but we're not going to pay you an arm and a leg for it. Unless it's fucking Netflix that could really get the hype up for these big movies like Day Shift and The Gray Man and or TV shows like Stranger Things. Like even a film that I thought was pretty good called Boss Level. That film came out and did nothing. No one talked about the film. No one remembers that film, Sally. And it wasn't that bad of a film. Frank Grillo, it was a pretty decent movie. That director I'm not a big fan of, but it's actually one of his better films. Boss Level. And that's the thing, that someone put a little bit more effort into it, and because it got lost in the shuffle with all this gluttony of stuff, it just disappears. And some people, some filmmakers, some directors will go, why the fuck am I going to work so hard that maybe it'll get out there, but then no one will see it and no one will think about it. And then there's a lot of people that stop trying hard. Back in the day, there were people that wanted to prove that we were in it to win it. They wanted to prove themselves that no, we can compete with you, we can do more than you, and we have a low budget. And whether you want to call it a dick swinging contest, ego, to prove themselves better. That's why ego doesn't automatically have to be a bad thing. If ego means I want to prove that I can do something that you think I can't do, a little bit of ego can actually be a positive thing. It's just like everything. When you get an overdose of it, that's where it could be deadly or dangerous or all the above. So you have a lot of people, they either lose their passion for it and just want to be the director, the type of direct that directs traffic. You do here, 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 print, move on, go, move on, print. I mean, it's not film, but let's move on, let's move on. And can you really sit there and tell me that's like those later A Good Man, like those Steven Seagal films, the director really had passion for it? No. Even that director who did the Perfect Weapon, the shitty Seagal film. He's like, oh, I'm doing a Seagal film? Okay, I mean, well, this is meant for as a joke, and because it's a Seagal film, and... But you tell the guy didn't want to do a fucking Steven Seagal film. I'll do it because it'll get me noticed. So it'll get me noticed, but at the same time, it's like... I'm not gonna... No one wants to put... A lot of people don't want to put in the blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff. Because again, either they feel that it's going to be ignored because of this gluttony of product that comes out every week to your whatever streaming service you go to, or because they don't know how to do it because they're not someone that worked in stunts and action, and I keep thinking of action because that's my favorite genre. Or, you know what, it's cheaper, it's faster. If we make the film as cheap as we can, then when, let's say you make a film and they give you the same price to buy it. Well, if we make the film for cheaper, when they buy it, we get more money. If we put more money into it, but they're paying the same price, yeah, we put more money to make it a little bit better, but we get less money, and for some people, that's not really a satisfying venture that they want to go into. Like, you look at direct-to-video stuff, like, directors that are a bit more capable would be like Isaac Florentine, even maybe was it Jesse Johnson, possibly him, because I think he did the first Accident Man. It's hard to even think of others because it becomes such a dime a dozen. And Netflix, I mean, some of them are given insane budgets, and even I'm like, how the hell did it cost that much? And maybe that's another thing, is that there's people that don't know how the fuck to spend that money. And if there's a problem, they just throw the money. Throw it. I'm like, well, no wonder it cost so goddamn much, because you didn't know how to handle that fucking money in a responsible fashion. You just go, you give me carte blanche, just throw it. Or the decline of the straight-to-video market is... I think there's a good chunk of people that stopped caring. There's a good chunk of people that felt that as streaming went bigger, and there's so many... There are fucking films that you will not believe got a fucking release that people could actually rent and pay for. Like found footage films that seriously would have cost, not a joke, $85 at most to make. And they're available for people to watch and rent. And right, they were shot on video, shot on shitty, as we call it, films back in the day. They could get away with it because it was a much smaller market back then. But nowadays they just throw it out there and it's a dime a dozen, and we want content, we don't care what the content is. And there's a lot of people that go, well, again, I don't want to work my ass that hard if it gets out there as pretty forgotten. Because in the world, that's the thing then, the world itself is so different from back then, where back then, if you wanted something to do, there's only a select amount of things. Let's say you're in your hometown, as 1995. Town, city, whatever. You either go out to a show, to eat, play sports, basketball, whatever, or when you get home, because there's no big internet with 80 million things to do, what are you going to do at home? You either going to play some video games, read a book, talk and fuck. It's called dirty talk. Or watch a movie. Oh, watch a movie. Go to the store. Even in 2000, there were still stores. I know because I worked at a video store and it closed down like 2012. And one reason it closed down because people stopped going there because they just see it either for free or for cheaper, or they don't have to go anywhere and go out to rent a DVD. And with the internet, not there are a million. It's countless what you can do just at home with the internet. You go on YouTube and watch a million videos. You could go type on Facebook, type on Twitter, go to all these websites. What's it about? I don't know, the Jamaica. Websites about what's going on under the water and the deep depths of the sea. Learn about history, learn about stuff for your job, all this stuff you could do. So because your attention can now go anywhere, it's endless. There's no limit to it. Movies at home, which used to be one of the primary things to do at home, a lot less so. A lot less so nowadays. Because again, at home, you could, just on the computer, you go to a million things. In fact, I think a lot of people watch more YouTube videos than fucking movies. And then, because you have all this stuff you can do, it feels like watching a movie is a limited time, and then when you have a more limited time to watch a movie, what the hell am I going to pick? All these movies that get released, and then all these movies get buried down, and so again, it gets into these makers and creators going, why am I going to spend that much money, or I'm going to spend that much work, that much effort for a fucking film that will, in their eyes, either get buried or get forgotten. And I'm like, well, because you want to make a good film. Well, I think there's people that are more about a job, or, oh wow, you could film a movie for product, come work for us, you do another job, an assembly line. It just becomes more of an assembly line. And that's why when you see something work, it becomes that much more of a nice little gem. Or wow, that's a nice little surprise. And nowadays, that's even going to be less so, because how are they going to compete with a film? Because Netflix and these Amazon, they have like hundreds of $1,000,000 to spend. We don't have this bid movie and the same side by side as your little dinky movie, and people don't go more towards that, the spectacle and or the star power. So now they don't go more towards that because you're in the same pool, you're in the same playing field. It's like, okay, watch this movie that costs you $7 million, or watch this movie that costs $100 million. Granted, budget does not mean a good movie, but there is a lot of people that do feel that way. And they go, well, at least I want to see a spectacle, and want to see. How many people have you talked to? Oh, the effects and the cinematography, and I mean, that seems like the end all be all. So I know I'm going over the place with this because I don't know how to be finite with it, but changing tastes, more competition, doesn't feel as special anymore. Movies get lost in the shuffle. It's all about quantity over quality. And be as cheap as you can, because why should I buy from you when this person's cheaper? And there's always going to be people in the business that just do it for the payday and just assembly line. Sure, I don't care. You do whatever you want. Oh, you pay me a little bit? Cool. Move on. Okay, we want to hire you. You work with you in this business. Doesn't matter if it's good. Doesn't matter if it's worth a shit. Pop in, pop out. Some recognizable people. And also, again, I don't think the quality of directors are as apparent now compared to back then. So there's a lot of people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's just my thoughts on it. But with that said, thanks for watching. Take care, guys, and we'll see you later. But yeah, you're not going to see a lot of films like this. You're just not. If you do, it will be very few and far in between. Change of taste, everything I just said. See you guys later. Bye-bye.